Alright, so the FaZe clan situation got even worse, and basically what happened was that FaZe Rain accused FaZe Temperrr of being a PDF file. And in the beginning, he didn't mention who it was and just said that it was someone in FaZe. And that led to a lot of speculation, with some people beginning to ask if it was FaZe Banks. And because of that, FaZe Banks made a response video and said that it actually wasn't him and it was indeed FaZe Temperrr. And keep in mind that in this clip, Norden is FaZe Rain and Tommy is FaZe Temperrr. So let's check this out.
First thing I'm going to say in this video is I'm not a pal. Rain is not talking about me. There, I got it out. It's a very heavy accusation. It's a life-shattering, life-altering accusation, and that's why it's so heavy. Got a phone call about a year ago from FaZe Rain, or a text rather. He's kind of going off just about all the reasons why he's upset with FaZe, hates FaZe, doesn't with FaZe, and he brings up that somebody's a pal. Nobody gives a f, nobody wants to talk about it. I'm like, what the f are you talking about? Call him. He's like, Banks, don't play dumb. We talked about this before. I'm like, Norden, pause. You're saying that FaZe Temperrr is a pedophile, which that is who he's talking about in the clip. And there's a story and we're gonna get into it. I'm like, whoa, that's Tommy, that's our brother. This is who we started this FaZe with. I'm calling him. That was the first thing I said. I'm calling him and I'm calling Apex, because apparently this is something Apex is aware of as well. Norden and Tommy, or Norden and Apex are the closest on the team. So obviously if Norden's gonna talk to anybody about anything and be transparent, it's Apex. So I patched Tommy and Apex in the call immediately. And we sit on this phone call and we talk for a long time. We were on the phone probably for at least an hour, maybe even 2 hours on the phone talking about this. And Tommy's first initial knee-jerk reaction to all this shit was, what the f are you talking about? Norden, no, this is not what the conversation was like. You're misremembering, you're misinterpreting. Obviously, Rain is coming back, standing firm on the fact that, no, you did say this. I do believe that you did this, whatever. This conversation I'm describing to you guys is a phone call from a year ago, but Tommy and FaZe Rain had a conversation between themselves years ago. I might be misremembering it, but I think it was 3-4 years ago they talked about this, and that's how long these guys have been sitting on that for. So this gets brought up years later. It's obviously a very heavy accusation. Yeah, what can you do in that situation? The way we left that phone call off was, let's get to the bottom of this, let's handle it. I mean, Rain's talking about making videos, Rain's talking about this, and nobody's telling him not to. I mean, obviously Tommy's like, bro, this isn't true, you're gonna ruin my life.
Alright, so as you just saw right there, FaZe Banks really clearly states that it's not him, and that, you know, the person being talked about was FaZe Temperrr. And so basically he says that there was this call that they had, and by the end of that call, the conclusion was that FaZe Temperrr kept denying that this was the situation, while FaZe Rain kept insisting that indeed this was the case, and that he wasn't misremembering or anything, and that he truly believed that this was the case with FaZe Temperrr. And now let's watch a clip of FaZe Rain talking about this situation.
This dude looks me in my eyes and says, bro, I'm not gonna lie, I had two 16-year-olds. I'm like, bro, what? Like, how could you tell me that after I'm telling you the 3 rules I have to why I'll never have your back as a friend? On my mother's heartbeat, that's what he said. He looked me in the eyes and he said that. I told Banks and I told Apex immediately. I even told Lee Trink. I have texts with Lee Trink from then. It was right before everything blew up with the SPAC and FaZe went public and whatnot. And he dropped me off home and we haven't talked since. That's why you guys are always like, bro, why don't you play CS with him? Why don't you play this one? I don't want to say it, bro. I feel bad. I feel bad. I know it's wrong. I know what he did is wrong, but I just hope people can understand like what it's like to have somebody you've known for half your life, that you love, that you hope that your kids would have been friends and shit like that. Like, I don't know. It made me sad, bro. It broke my heart. I didn't even want to bring this up, Banks. I did it. I didn't even want to bring your name up in this, bro. But you made that video. I don't know if we're about to watch it in a little bit, but it's just, you lied in that video. You're making shit up. Bro, even that tweet that you posted under, I screenshot it in case you delete it because I just don't trust you, bro. And I don't trust what you said there. You said some at the end of that tweet. What'd you say? You said, here, let's pull it up here. Like you said, call concluded and Tommy didn't admit to it. Yes, he did.
Alright, so as you just saw right there, FaZe Rain talked about that situation and how he says that FaZe Temperrr admitted this to him. And keep in mind that at the end of this clip, he also mentions that he doesn't agree with what FaZe Banks was saying, and that he thinks that by the end of that call, FaZe Temperrr actually did admit to it. And so yeah, overall, this is just a really bad situation, and the name FaZe is involved in this situation because of these people, right? So that's actually something that FaZe Lacy has a problem with, right? The fact that the word FaZe is being used so much throughout this whole situation, all the discussion regarding it and all that. So he's not happy about that. And specifically, he's not happy about the fact that, there's people involved here that aren't even in FaZe anymore. And so their names are still being used with the word FaZe, and so he's not happy about that. But before we talk about that, real quick, I just want to say that I'm giving out shoutouts on this channel to people who subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment letting me know that they subscribed. If you do that, then in the next video, I'll give you a shoutout. Anyway, back to the video. So yeah, regarding that thing that FaZe Lacy was talking about not being happy with the word FaZe being used in all of this situation, let's take a look at a couple of clips of this. And keep in mind that for these clips, I've sourced these from a video by It's Junkie, I hope I got that right, and the video is titled, "Even Lacy's Friends Hate Him." So let's check out these clips.
I'm tired of this falling onto us and our name getting dragged down and all the work we put in to build our group up to what it is right now because of old that we had nothing to do with. Stop affiliating us with whatever the they had going on. That's literally all I ask. Because I'm sitting there and I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, this is an awful situation. This is horrible. But it's got absolutely nothing to do with me. Nothing at all. FaZe Rain, FaZe Banks, FaZe Temperrr, do this, do that. Stop putting FaZe in front of people's names who aren't FaZe. They are not in FaZe anymore. This has nothing to do with us at all. So I'm tired of this falling onto us and our name getting dragged down and all the work we put in to build our group up to what it is right now because of old that we had nothing to do with.
Alright, so as we just saw right there, FaZe Lacy was obviously really not happy about the fact that, the word FaZe is being used here in this context, in this bad situation. And yeah, that does make sense, because of course you don't want the FaZe brand to be hurt by something like this, especially when people who aren't even in FaZe anymore are, the ones involved here, and this happened many years ago. And so, he obviously doesn't want to deal with like the negative impacts of all of this. He's just like, hey, look, I'm like one of the new guys, and FaZe is different now, so he doesn't want to deal with all of the negative impacts of all that old stuff. And I myself before have talked about how all these situations with FaZe are starting to cause problems for them, and it's beginning to hurt the brand. Like for example with FaZe Banks, we had that crypto situation involving Aiden Ross, and so stuff like that begins to add up, and you don't want too many situations like that in a short period of time. Otherwise it's really gonna harm the brand image, and that's something that clearly here FaZe Lacy is worried about. But at the same time, the thing is that people like that, the older members of FaZe, they're the ones who really built up the brand, and overall online they ended up being known by their names with the word FaZe in it, so that's why whenever somebody's talking about them, even now, they'll still add the word FaZe in there, because that's just what people online have come to know them as, that's what everybody calls them. So it would be a bit strange to like just use the word Banks without saying FaZe Banks. It's like, it's just one of those things. Like, even though, yeah, now we know that he's not in FaZe anymore. But, I also saw somebody online saying that, this is disrespectful to the original creators of FaZe who, built up the brand from scratch. And I do understand that perspective because, you're somebody who joined FaZe later on after it had already been established as this massive brand online, So you can't just say like, oh, don't even refer to the old members as FaZe anymore. Like, yeah, I do understand what you're saying in terms of like, are they still part of the organization? So that does make sense. But, they're still known with that name FaZe because they're just OG members. And, FaZe just wouldn't exist without them. And, it's not like creators like FaZe Lacy weren't successful without FaZe or before joining FaZe, but it's more about how, had they gone and made their own brand from scratch, it would have taken a lot more time for them to like build it up to the kind of brand that FaZe is. And, even though now I think FaZe isn't quite as like relevant anymore compared to what it was in the past, I just think that the name FaZe is still really big even now. And that legacy of the peak FaZe era back in the day, that plays a huge role in it. Even if the brand has changed over time and the people have changed over time, the word FaZe, the brand FaZe, is still absolutely massive. And so creating a new brand that would have to like come to that level of relevance, it would be a lot more difficult than what they did in this case, which was that they joined FaZe, and so it was this already established thing. Not saying that they can't do that. I'm sure that in the future we might see something like this. We might see some other brand or organization being built like this, and it reaches the kind of heights that FaZe was at during its peak. But it's just gonna be way more difficult. So yeah guys, those were my thoughts on the situation, and now I'm interested in hearing what you have to say down in the comments below. So leave a comment letting me know what you think, and we can have a discussion down there. And with all that being said guys, this is Alexi signing out.